This presentation will look at the Seattle Foundation's statements and general financial well-being.
First, some background. The Seattle Foundation's mission is to create a healthy community through engaged philanthropy, community knowledge, and leadership. We inspire informed and generous giving to make our community, local, national, and international, a vital and healthy place to live.
How does it work? Essentially, donors give money based on their interest, and Seattle Foundation manages this money in investment vehicles to earn interest, dividends, and gains, to then write grants to community organizations and nonprofits.
Just for some context, the Seattle Foundation ranks 21st in the country in terms of asset size for a community foundation.
The first question is, would I lend to the Seattle Foundation? My unequivocal answer to this is yes. The first reason I would loan to them is their very low debt. Seattle Foundation's debt-to-asset ratio is only about 0.1 for both 2008 and 2009. Overall, this falls well below the rule of thumb of 0.5 for debt ratios. Benchmarked across the next largest and next smallest community foundations, Seattle Foundation's levels fall within an acceptable range. Seattle Foundation can pay all of their current liabilities with current assets 2 times over. From a lender's perspective, this is important because if the organization's assets cannot be quickly converted to cash to cover current liabilities, the organization may be at risk of shutting down and thus risking default. Seattle Foundation carries very little debt compared to net assets. Seattle Foundation comes in at a reasonable 12% for 2009. While this number is a bit higher than benchmark foundations, it is still quite a low level and again demonstrates the foundation doesn't have a debt problem. The second factor I might consider is Seattle Foundation's efficiency in collecting pledge revenues. They have a very efficient pledge collection period of only 20 days. This signals to me, the lender, that the organization is optimized to generate and turn over donation revenues quickly, again decreasing the chances of default. As an institutional lender, I would loan a substantial amount of money to Seattle Foundation. The debt ratios are all very good, and management is effective at turning pledges into cash.
The second question is, would I donate to the Seattle Foundation? My answer at present is no. As a potential donor, my intentions would be to make effective use of my money in the community. Since the Seattle Foundation does not provide direct service to those in need, I would be interested in 2 important considerations. First, how is my donation used? In the last 2 years, Seattle Foundation consistently spent about 85% of their expenses on distributing grants, with the remaining spent on admin expenses and fees. This is a cause for concern because roughly 1/6 of my donation is not given to organizations that directly support the community. I personally believe the knowledge I've gained from Ken Smith's financial management class allows me to effectively evaluate and donate to a community organization without the help of the Seattle Foundation and their 15% cut of the money. So what is that 15% overhead doing for my donation? The Seattle Foundation helps my donation by investing in funds that are intended to grow over time, allowing the donor, me, to potentially give more. Seattle Foundation's return on assets and return on net assets indicate their profitability and how much my donation would be amplified inside their organization. A quick comparison of these returns shows the Foundation having slightly lower losses during the 2008 financial crisis and lower gains during the recovery in 2009 when compared with the S&P 500. There doesn't seem to be a clear short-term advantage to investing through the Seattle Foundation versus independently investing in the general market and then donating the returns. However, a quick look at the Seattle Foundation's annual report shows that in the last 10 years, the return on their donor funds assets was roughly 4 times greater than the market, a very promising sign for donors with long-term goals. So all in all, once I'm a rich Evans School alum, I would consider a long-term donor program with the Seattle Foundation. But my current financial situation creates more short-term focus to my giving, and with 1/6 of my donation going to admin expenses and a short-term return on assets that is underperforming, I would not donate to the Seattle Foundation and instead choose to donate independently.
The third question, would you work there? Yes, and here's why. Supporting expenses have stayed constant despite the recession that began in 2008. As a general rule of thumb, it is good to have an organization's current ratio at 2.0 and quick ratio at 1.0, and the Seattle Foundation meet or exceeds this standard. This means should anything arise or if the recession were to get worse, the Seattle Foundation would be able to get cash to pay their employees. Their profitability ratios show positive signs despite the recession during 2009, as it is up from the negative return on assets of 2008. The operating margin for 2008 is unknown because we are unable to distinguish what are unrestricted net assets on the financial statements. For an added bonus, the president and CEO of the Seattle Foundation is an Evans School alum and distinguished practitioner in residence here at the Evans School. Norm, if you're watching, we'll be looking for a job in 2012.
Question number 4. How could the financial reporting for this organization be improved? Well, first, the balance sheet needs a distinction between current and non-current assets and liabilities. Without this, it is difficult to derive liquidity measurements that may be important for lenders and future employees. This distinction is especially important for this hunk of money. How liquid is this money? What kind of restrictions are imposed on it? Potential lenders and donors would benefit from this info. Second, tell us how much of contributions goes towards administrative expenses. Currently, there is a line in the financial notes that states all contributions have a portion transferred to an administrative fund. Recently, with significant changes in pure administrative donations, knowing what percentage of donations goes towards administrative expenses would help potential donors and/or employees make their respective decisions.
So how could the Seattle Foundation improve its financial condition? First, they could improve their grant-giving flexibility by attracting more donors to their community and donor-advised funds instead of their more restrictive designated funds. This would increase their ability to fund community organizations that they deem most effective. Second, the foundation could potentially increase its grants expense ratio so that more money is spent on their mission rather than admin. When compared to the Foundation of Southeast Michigan, a foundation of similar asset size, it appears that this improvement is possible.
What information beyond the financial statement would you want in order to assist with the previous decisions? The foundationcenter.org website would have been helpful, as we would have been able to compare the Seattle Foundation to other comparable foundations and see how they are performing. Knowing employee benefits would have also been helpful in deciding if anyone would want to work at the Seattle Foundation. Investment strategies and the allocation priorities would have also been helpful in deciding if one would want to donate, lend, or work at the Seattle Foundation.
In conclusion, we would loan money to them because of their very low level of debt compared to assets. We would probably not donate to them unless we had a longer time frame to expect impacts from our donation. And we would work for them because they seem to be profitable and have a good liquidity position. Despite the fact their performance is tied very closely to financial markets, our analysis has shown Seattle Foundation to be a generally stable and financially sound organization.